What's up, Z Nation? It's your boy Trip.
What's up? It's Mama Bear.
And we are for Gen Z. We are YouTube spreading positivity and hope to all of Generation Z. And if this is your first time here, make sure you're slamming that subscribe button,
Liking,
sharing,
and commenting.
And make sure you're hitting that bell for all of our drops because we need you. You feel me?
All right. So today, what are we doing today?
Today is our Black Lives panel discussion. So you probably heard us talking about it. So today we brought together some people from the community, people in Gen Z. We have law enforcement, educators, and we are just going to talk about the right now temperature and condition of our nation.
Right. We strongly believe that. I think in the past, you always hear you shouldn't talk about politics and religion and those type of things. And we want to be a platform where that's okay, because I think a lot of this country is where it is today because people aren't talking. And the more you're comfortable with talking, I think the more we can head towards solutions.
Yeah.
And we honestly think that this generation is going to be the one that leads us to change. And so we have to hear from this generation, and that's what we are here for. So we're going to start with some introductions. So this is what I'm on. They're going to introduce themselves. They're going to tell what they do, how old they are, and they're going to tell us what's the favorite thing they've done during Coronacation. Who are we going to start with?
We can start down here.
All right, Kurt.
Kurt.
You gotta speak up, Kurt, so they can hear you.
I'm Kurt. I'm 21. I'm part of the Air Force Reserves. And the funnest thing I've done, quarantine, probably get some dubs on 2K.
The game.
I'm Jada. I'm 21. I'm a college student, and I'm a coach. And the funnest thing I've done during quarantine is probably watch Netflix.
Really?
Probably.
I mean, you really don't have a lot.
Ice cream.
You don't have a lot of choices for real, honestly, during quarantine. I'm John. If this is your first time watching the channel, I'm an educator, 32, a millennial. So yeah.
I'm Andrea. I am an educator as well, and it's none of your business how old I am.
Oh yeah.
I'm DeLon Carter, 32 years old, retired football player, current law enforcement officer.
I'm Bryson. I'm 15. I'm a student at United, and the most fun thing I've done in quarantine is explore an abandoned house.
Oh, I forgot that we were supposed to share that part.
Oh, we'll go back to that.
Yeah. All right.
All right. Hey, whatever. Hello. My name is Chris. I am an educator, and I'm currently 30 years old. And the best thing I've done, or lightest thing I've done this summer, was to sleep in late. Sorry, I'm boring.
I mean, I think that's what it is for all of us older.
Yeah, sleepy good.
Yeah.
Especially when you don't do it a lot.
So I forgot to do mine. The funnest thing I've done over quarantine, I mean, I'm going to go with Chris. Like actually sleeping in and setting my alarm just to turn it off. Like, I mean, it gives me joy to set the alarm and then just wake up like, wow, I don't have to get up right now and turn it off. What you said, DeLon? You said that's that teacher schedule? Oh, yeah. My goodness. Listen. It's a blessing and a curse.
Right.
Yeah.
My funnest thing during quarantine was probably, I don't know, I'll say resting.
Easy.
I'll say resting.
All right. Well, let's get right into it. We wanted to kind of start just a little more lighthearted, but we do have some heavy topics about, and let it be known that we are all speaking candidly. Everyone is entitled to their opinion, and we come with all love and support. Everyone has different beliefs, and that is the platform we're trying to hear. We're trying to actually have these discussions because I think a lot of people are afraid to say what they think.
Right.
And like you were saying, that's the biggest problem. We always separate politics, religion, education. As a teacher, we're taught, don't talk about religion too much in school. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And then when the topics do come up, we're not prepared or equipped to deal with any of it. Right. So, I mean, we'll just go right into it with our first question. We'll kind of let you guys answer as you see fit. But the thing that sparked all of this, even though it wasn't new to what's happened over the last few years. How did you guys feel after seeing the murder of George Floyd?
Like, what were your raw emotions
Yeah.
in that moment?
Don't all answer.
I'll step in first.
Okay.
As a current APD officer, I just thought about that officer standing there, trying to tell the crowd to stay back, and that man begging for his life. I know me personally, to see a fellow officer disrespecting the uniform and the badge and having his knee on his neck, I would have kicked that officer in the chest. Being a black man first in that uniform, I definitely would have kicked him in his chest and said, "What are you doing?" Immediately started administering aid because you're a first responder first. You're taking that man's life. He can't breathe. It's for those officers. The tactics were all wrong, and a lot of unnecessary things occurred in that video.
Yeah. Now, what do you feel? Because I felt like a lot of people that were witnessing it happen, they felt like they wanted to do something but couldn't do something. And I know that the lawyer over the case right now, he said that if people were so concerned, they should have intervened with kind of mediating the situation. So what do you feel about like him, that lawyer, trying to tell citizens to intervene on behalf of that?
I let you know, lawyers play both sides of the fence all the time. You asking them to, face a criminal charge. These guys show that they don't have regard for human life at that moment. So if they try to intervene, they're worried about them losing their lives as well. That's just an ignorant statement.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought it was different. I had never, ever heard a lawyer actually tell and say, well, the citizens should have gotten involved. Like, any other thoughts? Let's go down here to some of the youth. Kurt, what was your raw feelings, thoughts as you were seeing that video for the first time? And it wasn't a new phenomenon, but I think this was kind of one of the more extreme ones.
Honestly, it sat in my heart. Like when I first seen the video and just everything that was happening, like I was just like, why? Like that was the biggest question for me. Was just why?
What about you, Bryson?
This has been happening for a long while since the police was even created. Like earlier, it happened with Eric Gardner, I think his name was. He was choked. The police officer used his arm and choked him to death. And they tried to take him to the ER, and he was already dead. So it's really sad what happened to George Floyd.
Mama Bear?
All right, and I just want to make a clear statement that Tripp and I, we're just facilitating this conversation. It's not about putting our thoughts onto others. We really want this conversation to be here to listen. So, Jada, do you feel that there is a systemic racism in education, the government, or with even in the police force? What are your thoughts about that?
I think that there is, just because of what's going on and just like the viewpoint, that outsiders who like may not understand where Black people are coming from, just like, just their thoughts on like situations such as like stuff that's happening now with George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, stuff like that. Like I don't know, I feel like there's just kind of like trying to think of the word I'm trying to say, but it's just, I don't know, it's just a lot of stereotypes that goes into, different things that are going on, and a lot of people don't understand like what's going on, in my opinion.
So you mean as far as stereotypes within the Black community, or that is seen?
Yeah.
How the Black community is seen?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah.
Are you ready for the ask this question?
I want to feed off of what she just said.
Yeah, you can
Yeah.
Go ahead.
It's free dialogue.
Basically, what she's saying is ignorance is bliss when it comes to the color that you are. If you're a white man or woman, you don't have to think about, just as a lawyer didn't have to think about what he said and when he said, why don't you try to intervene?
Yeah.
he couldn't relate to the fact that I have all these things against me if I intervene.
Mhm.
So ignorance is bliss when you don't understand the system and how other minorities have to face the system.
Yeah.
Right.
Go ahead.
Oh no, I was like, just to piggyback off of that, I think one of the details was that the person filming that was an African American young lady, and that pressure alone, no one has even mentioned her,
Right.
and all the pressure that comes with that because of they don't understand that it's more than just what meets the eye.
Right.
I think a lot of the frustration is that, okay, we saw what happened, and I think where the conversation always goes, and Delon, you can chime in on this too. I think where the conversation always goes is, well, what led up to that? What did they do to get in that situation? Okay, right. I get that he probably maybe was doing something, but
It was a counterfeit bill.
yeah, right. And it was whatever he was doing did not justify his life. So, I mean, you can commit various heinous crimes, and you still, based on the law of this country, you still have to go through trial. There is no judge executioner type laws that we have. You understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So when the conversation goes to the point of, well, what did he do to get that? Well, it doesn't really matter what he did. He's still entitled to have a due process. At the end of the day, he's entitled to that due process, whether he had a counterfeit bill, whether he stole a car, whether, like, it doesn't matter what the previous, the prequel, what led up to it. He still should have had due process. And I think that's where a lot of people get frustrated, is because they deflect from, well, they took his life, to, well, what did he do to deserve that? Nothing. No one,
Right.
no one does anything to deserve to get their life taken, especially without due process and trial and all of that. You know, our Pledge of Allegiance says liberty and justice for all.
Yeah, and I think that the narrative changes quickly. But what I want to ask you all is, do you all feel like a lot of people are saying just about the media? Well, one, the reaction is because it was filmed and and people saw it. But what about the media itself? Do you feel like it hinders the stories and people's opinions, or that's what we have to rely on for actual resource?
And you mean big media, right?
Yes,
Like big
yes.
channels.
Two
Okay.
different ones.
Yes,
Mainstream, and then you have, this generation
Right,
that's
the
now
social
Instagram
media.
and
I'm
social
talking,
media.
yeah, I'm talking about mainstream. Yep.
Mainstream media is horrible, and it's always been tampered with since the beginning because it's ran by corporations and agendas. With Instagram coming of age and, the regular citizen being able to voice what really is occurring, mainstream media is dying. And they can't put a facade over our face. We have to face these real issues,
Mm-hmm.
and, it's crippling their power now.
What do you think about that, Kurt?
I agree totally. I think it's a cover up of what the actual issues are. Because being in college, I was a public relations major, so I would know for sure. And it's just a cover up basically, and it's just that they're not really trying to put what's really happening out there, but they're covering up a lot of the things that's really happening. Like even for like the riots and stuff like that, they're covering up the main issue, who's actually out there being the main issue. And then you have social media where people's actually recording the actual footages and they're not blocking out anything. You know what I'm saying? They're putting it on live. We're seeing it from live action. So it's a big difference.
So let me ask you guys this: we're very deliberate about believing that United States means united, and so we wanted to have a lot of diversity on our panel. And we had some technical difficulties, but they'll be joining us for the next episode. So, but for Kurt and Bryson and Jada, have you all experienced racism at all in your life?
Well, me, not as much, because when we live out in the country, it's like a predominantly white school, so there's like little to no African American. There's no diversity in our school. But when like a new African American comes to our school, they're treated differently. Like no one's really used to that. Normally, they'll either be like really popular, or they'll be like everyone's making fun of them, everyone's like beating them up. Like that's what.
So we're just being candid. I want to ask you, as being biracial, how are you identified by your like friends and people at school? Like, do they ever attribute to the fact that you have both, in your blood?
I'm proud of it because I'm African American and I'm white. I don't say that I'm treated differently in any way, shape, or form. I don't know really what to say on that.
No, that's good. Good feedback. Jada and Kurt?
I haven't experienced racism myself. I would say I've been stereotyped because I went to a predominantly white high school, and it was very few black people like in my grade, and all the black people basically we played sports. So I was always looked at as someone who can jump high, or like someone who was very good at like everything, like just like basically saying like I didn't have to try as hard as they did, but I did try and everything. But the question of have I experienced racism, I have not, which I'm thankful for, but I do know, several of my peers who have.
I would say that I haven't too many times either as well. Just probably growing up, in the neighborhood and organization that I've been around, and just haven't really seen too many other races, that aren't in poverty or that, what I'm saying, that's aren't being oppressed. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like, as far as when I went to college, I mean, it was pretty much a good college, but it wasn't too much racism, I wouldn't say. So I wouldn't say I've experienced it myself. I've seen others being, experienced it, but I haven't truly experienced it myself. Yeah.
Do you think that speaks to, because that was interesting, I wasn't expecting to hear what they said. And maybe it's because the generations are different. I can say I have experienced blatant racism. And growing up, I kind of had both systems. And maybe this is like a system, how we talked about the systematic racism thing. Kurt, you were saying like the neighborhoods you were used to, everyone was like you.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Is that the systematic problem to where you're not used to seeing outside of that bubble, so you don't really see a problem? You know what I'm saying? Because I grew up inner city all the way up until middle school, and then I went straight suburban. So I went from inner city to suburbia, and as a child, it was really culture shock. Just how everyone moved, how everyone did different things, and it was really different for me. And I experienced kind of what Jada said. I was an athlete, so I was popular, but then I also experienced where I was the taboo friend to have. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like
you're the one they're all calling right now.
Yeah. So, right. So I was popular and very unpopular at the same time. There was really no in between. It was almost like I was a polarized figure. And the kind of the same thing went for college. I went to a predominantly white, small liberal arts college. And it was kind of like the same thing there. And though we were diverse on the sports side, mostly all of the students outside of athletics weren't black.